Hi everyone. Um, Today is Wednesday, October 4th, I think. Yeah, October 4th. And I just finished up my last test of my first round of exams. I've been studying really hard. And it was a really hard test, at least for me. So we'll see what happens. I don't have a grade yet. They normally grade them pretty quickly because we only have a class of like 20. But it was interesting because I didn't know exactly how the test was going to go as far as like what level of questions she was going to be asking. And she gives us quizzes on a weekly basis. So the questions were similar. There were some that were easier, some that were like medium, and some that were like pretty hard. I think one of the hard ones I spent like 5-10 minutes on at the end because I had some extra time. So I marked it and came back to it, and it was, I had to just read all the answer choices really carefully. I'm definitely like someone who marked all over the test like excessively to try and figure out answers and why answers weren't wrong or were wrong and why they weren't wrong. And she let us stand up and walk around during the test for especially for like gate questions. I couldn't really visualize it, so I had to stand up and walk around a little bit, which was cool. I think those questions would have been a lot harder if I was restricted to just sitting in my seat. She also did a break every half hour, mandatory break where you had to stop and stand and stretch, which is like amazing. I've never had it where you had to do that, and I think it's really great. And I don't know why they don't do it in undergrad either, because even though we're in PT school, I guess we just like think about it more because we're PTs and we think about like posture and stuff, but I think it should be integrated into undergrad testing, especially long testing or finals or something like that, because you just get so hunched over and your brain hurts. And some people don't like it because they're like powering through, but especially if you're a fast test taker and you're close to the end, but whatever. I really liked it. And I don't know how I feel about the test itself. I feel like I worked really hard. For all you out there who are thinking about PT school and like seeing all these different trends about studying and how to study and how not to study in comparison to undergrad, you can't cram for these tests. It doesn't work that way. You can try. You'll get some of the answers right, the ones that are recall, but you will not get most of them correct, because they are like thinking questions. So knowing relationships between things really helps. I actually, for grad school, switched over to doing mostly type notes. In undergrad, I hand wrote all my notes initially. So that's not to say that I don't handwrite my notes, but I've found it, if I'm listening in class and we're doing something really complicated, I can definitely type faster than I can write it. So at least I have it down on paper. And normally we get time to think about it. That's the cool thing about like our IS stuff, is that it's called inquiry seminar. It's not a lecture because it's her talking, then she asks us questions to like get it like pinned in our brains, I guess, or that's the hope. So I do computerized notes on PowerPoints, save them all to Google Slides, and I type my notes in the speaker location. Other people do it differently. That's worked for me. And then when I'm studying for tests, I can go back through the PowerPoints and either print them. I didn't print them this time because I don't have access to a double-sided printer, and some of these PowerPoint slides are really long. But I'd take a whiteboard. I know a couple other fellow students wrote it down on paper. I have a problem with my wrist, so I like using a bigger pen. So an Expo pen works really well for me. I have a little 8x11 whiteboard, and I write down all my notes on there, or I work through quiz questions that way. She gave us a practice quiz before this exam. And we had a bunch of other quizzing resources. So I would write it all down on the whiteboard and then use deductive reasoning on why things would or wouldn't be correct. Because sometimes two are very similar, but it's the wording of the question, most accurately or best, or, there are all these different kinds of questions she can ask about, imaging or something like that. And it's what best describes what, or most accurate or most cost effective. So you have to be really careful and really pick apart everything to make sure you're answering it correctly. Because sometimes there'll be two answers that are correct, but you have to look at the context if she's looking at most effective or most cost effective. So it's definitely, these tests have taught me how to, the written test and then her quizzes have taught me how to not skip details, not just circle an answer and move on. I really have to think about it and make sure that I look at all the answer choices. Because we had enough time. Time wasn't an issue for me. But trying to piece everything together, and even for the analytical questions, there's some portion of recall. But like I said, I don't have the grade yet. But I think I gave it my best shot. So the good news is all of my first round of exams are done. So I'll catch you guys later.